All right, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to address some specific questions that I have seen come up from students throughout the years that um, I know some of them are addressed in the welcome video that you watched, and some of them are addressed in my syllabus. But I also think that on the days whenever you're consuming that information, that you're consuming a lot of other information too. So I know that that can be overwhelming, and I also know that like me as your instructor or maybe a career coach, it might be easy for us to kind of take this information for granted because we're so familiar with it. But the truth of the matter is, it's information that directly impacts you. And so I want to make sure that we just kind of take some time to slow down and be intentional about addressing some of these questions that have to do more with the process of what you're trying to do here and not necessarily just the content. So that said, I am going to take on a few specific questions that I have a tendency to see repeatedly from students so I can make sure that you have a good understanding of what your responsibility is and what the process looks like with regard to them. So as I'm going through this, if you have any questions at all, please make sure to let me know. So the first question that I want to address is about the HiSET process itself. So how do you get from where you are now, sitting in this seat in this classroom, to actually having your HiSET credential in your hand? So you have 5 subjects that you have to pass official tests for: reading, writing, science, social studies, and math. Okay, so for all 5 of those subjects, then you will take classes where you will hone your skills and work with your instructor to get to the point where you both feel comfortable with you going to set for a qualifying test. The qualifying test for writing will be actually at a DMAC location at either Southridge or urban campus. So for writing, you have to go in person to take your qualifying tests. I do believe that the other subjects, you're able to do them virtually. But focusing just on the writing, so you will go into a actual DMAC location and take your writing qualifying test. The writing qualifying test is going to be just like the format of the official, in that you have 2 parts to it: multiple choice and essay. It will be different in that for your qualifying test, you'll have multiple choice questions, maybe 25 to 30, depending on what version of the qualifying test you pull. We have 3 different versions that are in circulation. Every calendar year they change, but so depending on which of the 3 you're getting that day, then it's going to be somewhere between 25 to 30 questions plus the essay. And so say, for example, if there are 25 questions, then you might have to get somewhere around 18 or 19 correct in order to pass the multiple choice portion. And then for the essay portion, it's graded on the 1 to 6 scale. And I'll show you on our Blackboard page, as part of some of the resources I have on there for you, the official scoring guide that the HiSET produces for you to review. So you can see that, oh, this is what a 1 looks like, this is what a 5 looks like, etc., and what specifically they're looking for when they're grading those things. But so when you go take the qualifying test, the multiple choice will be paper-based. So you will have a just like a test booklet that has your questions in it. It will look similar to the practice test that we do here in class, and then you'll fill in the bubbles for the 25 questions, which you think is the answer, A, B, C, or D. And then, so let's say that you take your qualifying test, you score 21 out of 25 on the multiple choice, and you get a 3 on the essay. That's passing. So then you'll work with your career coach to get your official scheduled in that subject. So your official, again, for all of the subjects, your official, you have to go to a test center to take that in person. And for the writing, your official test is going to be all paper-based, or excuse me, all computer-based. So you'll be typing your essay and you'll be answering the questions on a computer. And you have 60 multiple choice questions and 1 essay, and you have 120 minutes to complete them both. So for the qualifying, whenever you had like 25 to 30 questions and 1 essay, you maybe had like 85 minutes, was somewhere around there would be your time limit. The official, not only is it different in that it is going to be all on the computer, but you have more multiple choice questions, but your time limit is obviously increased to account for that. Furthermore, the way that the tests, the official tests, are graded, and again, this goes for all of the 5 tests that you have to pass. So for all of the 5 tests that you have to pass, your multiple choice portion will be paper-based. You'll fill in the little bubbles. You'll have a certain number out of 25 or 30 that you have to get correct in order to pass. Then you go to your official, and you have all on computer for all of the tests, and all of your officials are going to be more than what you're qualifying for. So that's why I encourage you to check out that test at a glance, which is also on our Blackboard page, because that will give you the specific format and the specific time and the specific number of questions that you have for all of your tests. So all of your official tests are going to be all on computer, and all of them are going to be slightly more questions than what your qualifying test was. So you go to take your official, and this is at a test center. There will be a proctor there. You're taking it on the computer, and this official test is graded a little bit differently in that it's a scaled score. So I know just enough to be dangerous about what this scaled score means, and I'll let you know what I know. And that is that just like we have a few different versions of a qualifying test circulating every year, they circulate a few different versions of the official test every year too. So 3 different people in this class could all go in and take the official test the same day, and you could all 3 be getting a different version of the test. So some of the tests are a little bit more difficult, some of them are a little bit easier, and on the ones that are a little bit more difficult, you don't have to score quite as many. On the ones that are easier, you have to score more correct, and then that's kind of how the scaled scoring system works. And you have anywhere from a 1 to a 20 that you can score, and you have to score an 8 or higher in order to pass. So that is for the multiple choice for all of your tests, all 5 subjects. 8 or higher you have to pass. So once you have done that, once you have gone through the qualifying process and you've gone through the official process and you have passed for all 5 subjects, that's how you get your HiSET credential. After you've officially passed all 5 subjects, then you can, your career coach can help you, but you will order your diploma, basically, like your actual physical representation of the credential, and then you have your HiSET. So there's a couple of questions that always come up that I wanted to address quickly about this. One is, what if I don't pass? Okay, so if you don't pass, so let's say that you've been in class, you've been working hard, you've been taking practice tests, your instructor feel like you're ready to go take a qualifying test, you go take a qualifying test and you don't pass. Well, remember I said we have 3 different versions of the qualifying test. So you have to, if you take one and don't pass it, you have to wait 90 days before you can take that same one again. But we have a couple other options in between that time. So if you go in and take it and you don't pass, then you go back to class, you work with your instructor, you decide what it was that went wrong and what it is that you need to work on. You get some extra instruction and you just keep at it until you feel like you and your instructor are comfortable with you going and trying it again. Well, when you go try it again, if it hasn't been 90 days, then you'll just take a different version of the qualifying test. So you have 3 different versions that you can take. If you take one and don't pass it, you go back to class and get additional instruction to try to remedy whatever the deficits were that created the situation for you not passing, and then you can go back and try it again. And you just have to wait 90 days in between taking another qualifying the same form of the test that you missed. But generally in between that 90 days, you have 2 other options that you could be working with. And then if that was really the case where you went and took one, didn't pass, took another one, didn't pass, took another one and didn't pass, generally by that time there would have been a 90-day period, so that if it was time for you to go back and qualify again, then you could go back to the one that you took 90 days ago and didn't pass. That's a pretty rare situation for students to I actually don't know if I've ever seen it, but that is the process. Generally what happens is if you go in and you don't pass, you and your instructor identify what it was that wasn't working and why you didn't pass. You hone those skills and then you go back and try again. And generally the first time is when students pass, but in the situation where you don't pass the first time, then the second time is usually successful. And what I have seen with that is that sometimes it's not even that there was a lack of skill in the first place. It was just the experience was distracting and off-putting for students. So once they went back in the second time, sometimes it is that they just didn't have quite the skill set they needed the first time, but a lot of times is that they just didn't know what to expect and were uncomfortable in the testing environment. So once they have that experience under their belt, go back in the second time, they feel more comfortable and are able to be more successful. So then let's say that you'd go through that process, then the second time you pass, so you go on to take your official. It's really pretty similar as far as the official goes. So for every subject for the official test, you have 3 attempts that you can do within a calendar year. So let's say you went in, took the qualifying test, passed, went in, took the official, didn't pass. That was in February. Went back to class, talked with your instructor about it, figured out what was going on, worked on what you needed to work on, put in the time, got the instruction that you needed. Then you have to go back through the qualifying process again. Went back through the qualifying process, you qualified again, you went and took your official again. Let's say it's June at this point. So then you didn't pass again. So then you just repeat the process and you have one more time this year. So you go back to class, you work with your instructor, you figure out what it is that you need to work on, you hone those skills, you go through the qualifying process again. And then now let's say it's November and you go back and you take the official test again and you don't pass, then you have exhausted your attempts for that year. Then you have to wait until the following February for your attempts to start over in that subject. So that's for that subject, and that same process applies for all 5 subjects. So sometimes if you would have exhausted an attempt in one subject and it's November, then you're just going to have to table that one, or work more on that, just the instruction and the drill and the practice and honing your skills in that area until January. Or you can switch gears and work on a different test and work through the testing process in a different subject. Again, what I will say though is that in situations where students are not passing they've tried it 3 times in a year and aren't passing, a lot of times that's, first of all, again, that's a very rare instance, but seldom have I seen that be a result of the student not actually knowing what it is that they need to know in order to pass the test. A lot of times that is when a conversation about test anxiety comes into play. So that is answer, that kind of takes on 1 and 2. Let's talk about the official scoring process. So for every subject, you have to score an 8 or higher. Okay. Now, the thing here is that you have to have a composite score, or the total of all of your scores has to be 45. So if you just score 8 on all 5 tests, 8 times 5 is 40. So if you just score 8 on the multiple choice portion of the writing test, that's okay. You still pass that as long as you got a 2 on the essay and that, or higher, and that essay score is not factored into this composite score. But as long as you score an 8 or higher on the multiple choice portion and a 2 or higher on the essay portion, then that's okay. You still passed writing. But whenever you go to take math, reading, social studies, or science, you're going to have to score higher than 8 so that you can make up those points somewhere else. So at the end of all 5 tests, then you have to have scored an 8 or higher on all, and your total has to add up to 45. So that takes on 3, and then your career coach. We actually just had the pleasure of a visit from our career coach, Teresa, and she did a wonderful job explaining to you some of the things that she's here to help support you with. Essentially, your instructors are here to help you with your supports that you would need within the classroom, and your career coaches are here to help you with things that you would need outside of the classroom. So you're supported all around. Everyone is vested in your success, and we are here to help you in and out of the classroom. Any other questions? Anything you'd like for me to circle back around on? Okay, well, as always, if any do come up, then I'm always happy to address them. But I did think it was important for us to take some time today to look at these kind of nuts and bolts about the testing process and the process in general, just so that you're aware of what it is that you're trying to accomplish.